Heart first leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back, friends, to the Integrated Mindset Podcast. I am Ryan Sawyer, your co-host, here along with my wife, Heidi Sawyer. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
We're doing good. Good. So we're going to record a podcast today about kind of wrapping up. The last 4 or 5 episodes have been kind of in the realm of letting go. And this is a conversation that we could do every single podcast about because it's a continuous conversation that could go on forever. But we just want to kind of, put a bow on this last little 4 or 5 podcasts. We talked about creating the void. We talked about decluttering. We did an episode with Andrew Dowler about somatic movement and how to liberate energy. And so there was a handful of different conversations that we had recently that were in this realm. This is probably one of my favorite conversations in the world, is this idea of learning how to let go and to explore the difference between letting go and surrendering, and the impact that it can make in our lives to be able to do these things, to let go and surrender, what is possible when we do, and what are we letting go of, right? I mean, we could just go on and on and on forever. But, I think if you're somebody who listens to the podcast over time, you're getting little tidbits and information that's going to help to assist you in that. And if you want to learn how to master the art of letting go of surrender, like this is what we spend the first half of our program on, is building the case to understand the human experience enough so you can begin to create space and let go. And so what happens when we do? What are we letting go of? Well, is there anything that comes to mind, Heidi, before I go into mine? Because I'm about to unleash a spiel here that I have no idea what I'm going to say, but it's going to be about letting go. So I wanted to give you a chance to say hi and anything that's in your mind or space right now.
Yeah. Well, just before you get started, I want you guys to keep in the front of your mind the integrated mindset program that Ryan just mentioned, where he teaches in depth about these things. And if this piques your interest, definitely we're going to give you some ways to check that out. But I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. So fire away.
Yeah. So this is a common theme when you really stop and you look at every truth out there that we have studied, from universal principle to biblical truth to spiritual text, in every single thing that I've ever studied, from David Hawkins' work to Michael Singer, to obviously the teachings of Christ or whatever it is, there's always this idea that we must die to ourselves. We must let go. We must have faith. We must have faith in the unknown and the unseen. That we, in some way, shape, or form, again, whether you're a follower of Christ and you believe that you're saved, or whatever that experience is for you, it's all pointing back to this simple truth that there is this scale that we live on. We live either above this scale or below on this scale. And below is an experience of constriction, of dense, of darkness, of feeling tight, of limited mind, of narrowed perception, and of struggle, of trying to force things. Fundamentally, I had this conversation actually with Colton this morning as we were sitting in the sauna after our training session, and I was describing to him the difference between power versus force. And the truth of the matter is, this can be measured where we're living on this scale. And the truth is that 85% of the world are living in a life that is of struggle, of force, of resistance, of unnecessary obstacle and unnecessary suffering. That's the reality. And when I began to unpack and connect dots and to learn how this was this common thread through all of these different spiritual texts and truths and universal principles and everything else, was this idea of letting go to find freedom, letting go to discover who you truly are, your true essence, right? This became like my main focus to study and to be able to teach it in a way that was receivable and relatable. And so when you start to think about what you're letting go of, from a basic perspective, it's to let go of these lower constrictive vibrations or experiences of shame, guilt, grief, fear, even desire and anger, even pride are one. That's why you hear that pride comes right before the fall. When we are living in these lower vibrational experiences, we tend to force things in our lives. And so what we're letting go of is these experiences that are constrictive. And we might experience them inside of our body in that very way. So the experience of letting go is legitimately getting out of the narrative, out of our head, out of the stories that we tell, and into our body to recognize what are the sensations that are happening inside of my body when I'm angry. So something happens, I get cut off in traffic. And that just irritates me when someone does that. And why are they driving like that? It's snowing outside, and well, either they're driving too slow or they're driving too fast. They should be doing something different, right? Why do they do it that way? I mean, whether you want to talk about driving down the street and being angry, or you want to talk about, competition could be a part of this conversation as well. When you shift, competition is you trying to be better than somebody else rather than being in cooperation or collaboration with others, which is a powerful stance. Right? Again, I'm not going to go down all kinds of different holes here, but I'm going to try to just illuminate this idea or concept of letting go from this basic principle that we're letting go of things that make us feel constricted, that make us feel dense, ways that we feel that the world has to be a certain way for us to be okay, which is another definition for a preference or a desire or a want or a need, right? So we're letting go of these things that make us feel separate or not enough. And however you're experiencing that, it's dense, it's limiting, and your perception narrows when you're in that lower vibration. So letting go is exactly this, is the ability to bring your attention to that constrictive experience, to not judge it, to allow it to be there fully without resistance, and to let that go all the way through us. We have this ability to move energy through our bodies in a way where we meet somebody, we do something that allows for that energy, that Shakti, that chi to flow through us in a way that feels good. We say, oh, we like that person, we like that thing, we like doing that because it doesn't hit our stuff. And then in the next moment, somebody says something the wrong way, somebody does something happens in the world, and it hits that blockage, that boulder in your stream of consciousness, and you decide, I don't like that. I don't like that person. I don't like that thing. I don't like doing that thing, because it makes you feel either okay or not okay. And this becomes your prison that you live in, is that everything has to be a certain way for you to be okay, or things can't be that way for you to be okay. And those both are limiting ways of living. So without going too far down that hole, is this understanding that we are attaching and identifying to all types of lower states and vibrations and frequencies that keep us in a patterned, predictive, limited experience of life. And when we begin to let these things go, you open yourself up to new possibilities. You naturally evolve and transcend your consciousness to what we call above the line, above courage. It takes courage to let go. So courage is the doorway. to let go of desire, to let go of pride, to let go of anger, to let go of fear, to let go of grief. This is why faith is so incredibly important to let go, is because courage becomes this catalyst that like launches us above the line into willingness and acceptance and reason and love and joy and peace. And when we do, we have a greater connection experience of who we truly are. We feel open. We feel wondrous. We feel unlimited. And we begin to experience life in that way, where we, even though we aren't trying to control things, we feel more in control, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And that experience above the line is expansive. And we begin to ask ourselves powerful, open-ended questions like, what is possible? And it's experienced as this space, like we talked about in the last podcast, and it's experienced as this spaciousness that is unknown and unfamiliar. And so what I'm wanting to bring this conversation full circle, then you bring me back and ground me in a way that maybe whatever dots you're connecting as I'm portraying this picture, is that when we're in that space and we're not used to being in that space of expansiveness and possibility and potential and unlimited mind, is legitimately a part of our mind is unlimited. We have access to knowledge and information and intuition and creativity that can't be described. This experience of being this experience of not being in the lower vibrations, right? Of letting go and us transcending and opening up into who we truly are can feel scary and unknown, which leads towards an experience of what we call the crab theory, right? And the crab theory can be this pulling back down into the lower vibrations, into this denser, more constrictive experience, into back down into fear, back down into anger and desire and pride. When we have a moment of opening, we then close. It's this natural thing that happens. We open and then we close because it feels scary. It feels unknown. It feels uncomfortable. And it takes faith to stay open. It takes courage to stay above the line. You have to bounce off of courage and open yourself back up again. The world will give us reasons to close. When we begin to do this work and we begin to declutter, when we begin to find space, when we begin to let go, people will say things to us that'll make us want to close. There'll be resistance. There'll be ripples. There'll be fluctuations out in the world. People will call you and tell you something that you didn't need to know. There'll be a financial burden that maybe wasn't there before. There'll be something that pulls you back down and goes, you see, I got to stay in control. I got to force things to make things happen. If I want something done right, I got to do it myself. And all these rationalizations and irritability and justifications will come into your mind saying, I knew I wasn't good enough for this. I knew I wasn't worthy. I don't deserve all of God's riches. And so that crab theory will pull you back down. It'll be either an internal dialogue or an external circumstance or a combination of both. Usually the external circumstance will trigger the internal dialogue. And that's when the work begins. So you then open yourself back up again, right? And every time you do that, you begin to make it easier to spend more time in those higher vibrations and a more open, expansive stance, in more of a beginner's mind where there's an unlimited potential. And the more time you spend up there, the more comfortable it becomes, and eventually becomes where you spend the majority of your time. And over a course of maybe weeks, months, or even years, you will recognize that you'll be bouncing off of something like courage. Like courage will be the lowest you have to go on that scale, where it's at, where this is all can be measured, but on that scale where you recognize, oh, I'm having to actually utilize courage right now. Interesting. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? Now, how can I let go and have faith and accept and be willing? Willingness and acceptance are so incredibly important. To be willing to lean into the unknown, to be willing to lean into resistance, to be willing to lean in and then accept things as they are, because that's what is, while accepting a different potential and possibility at the same time. So, this is a deep conversation. We want to do a quick podcast to kind of wrap up this time around. I'm sure we'll continue to come back to this over and over. And we would love to hear from our audience to say, like, I want to hear more about this part of it, right? And if you really are being pulled into understanding or wanting to understand or master this art of letting go or surrender, like, this is what the program is all about. For the first half of it is setting the stage and understanding the human experience enough to be able to let go. Because when we do, we find ourselves in this natural state of homeostasis or grace or internal freedom. And it is priceless to be there, even just for a moment, to be there throughout your day. And what if it was possible for you to be there for the majority of your day, in the majority of your life, and eventually be stuck there in a place of grace and freedom and openness and wonder and a childlike sense of a beginner's mind. So I don't know if any of that made sense. I don't even know what I just said. So any feedback that you have, my dear, I would love to hear it. Or resistance. I love resistance. You know how I love resistance too. I'll lean into it. I'll be willing and accepting of it, and then we'll move beyond.
Yeah, you mentioned the crab theory a couple times. Just for anybody who hasn't heard that on a previous podcast, it's this idea that when you have a bucket of crabs and one starts to climb out of the bucket, the others will pull that crab back down. And I think what you're referring to there is like, yes, all of these types of ways that resistance will show up once you decide you're ready to let go, you're ready to have a different experience, you're ready to transcend those dense feelings that you were having before and move past it, that something inevitably will come into your awareness that wants to bring you back down to that experience that you were having before, or bring you back down to kind of the collective experience that's happening around you. Even though there are higher and higher levels of consciousness available to you, that's that resistance that inevitably shows up. And I think what you're saying there is just to expect that, to know that that's a part of the experience. And I think that's one of the things that's really powerful about what you're teaching in the program is understanding that when you open up, you will close.
You'll have a chance to close, yeah.
Yeah. And to expect that and to understand that these are all normal parts of growth and part of being human, and how to really traverse some of those things that come up so that you can start to have an experience of life that is the experience of openness and joy and grace and all of the things that you're wanting to experience by being able to let go of some of those other things that aren't serving us as much. And I think it does take courage, because when you're caught up in the fear, when you're caught up in the what ifs, it does take a level of courage to decide to move past that. And that is why you have to transcend, you have to move up that scale through that, beyond that. But like you said, then maybe that's your the point that you bounce off of later. That's the bottom that you're hitting and bouncing off of, rather than hitting these really low depths where you're in a dark place.
Yeah, to be able to stay open and expansive in the face of fear. And so, this work has never been more obvious of the importance of it to me than it has been in the last few weeks. We experienced a little bit of turmoil in our world. And for me, I was able to just stay behind all of it. And even though there was a disturbance happening inside of me, I was still able to access what I knew to be true, which is that I was going to be okay, that we were going to be okay, that there was something, a gift in this, and on the other side of it was another level of connection and freedom. And I think that the more we become aware of the fact that the resistance or the crabbing experience that pops up, how that is for us, because that's like the vehicle that leads towards your next growth and healing, to be able to experience more of who you truly are, to be able to let go again of something that does not serve you, like this natural curve that happens when you open, you expand, new potential, new job, new possibility, new relationship, new whatever, right? New concept of yourself. Crab theory pulls you back down into an old constrictive narrative or experience. Like, there you go. Good. Now work can be done to be able to liberate yourself to another degree, to another level of consciousness, and to have a deeper experience of this grace and freedom on the other side of it. Like, legitimately, it is for you and it is part of the process. And when you experience it and you expect it, like, you're not surprised by it, you even though it's undesirable and uncomfortable, you tend to find the ability how to traverse through it, and to stay above, at least in the courage, at least to be at courage and not drop into pride and think that, you have to defend yourself, or into anger and feel like you have to lash back out at somebody else, or, into desire and wishing that it was different than it was. It's just, it is what it is. And then you're able to move beyond it once you come to a place of acceptance. It's the only way to move beyond things, is to look at them for what they truly are, not to create a bunch of story around it and then get trapped in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because fear and desire and anger become patterns that we become ingrained in, and we become almost addicted to.
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I can always recognize, like, when I'm caught up in some type of story like that, because there'll be times where I feel that lower vibration, or I feel that sense of overwhelm, or whatever, however it's manifesting, however it's showing up for me. It's like feeling like I'm not capable of taking on what I'm taking on, or what have you. And then it's just like stepping back just a little bit, just a tiny bit, just getting behind it just a tiny bit, so that you can look at it and go, oh, okay, I can see that what this is. And you create that separation between yourself and the story that you're telling. And you recognize that that's not the truth of who you are. And once you're able to do that consistently, it gets so much easier to let go of it, because it's kind of like when you're working out. Everybody's worked out, gone for a run, whatever. You're working out is hard. You're pushing yourself. There's resistance. It is uncomfortable, but afterwards you're going to feel great. It's the same idea, only we haven't made it mainstream yet in our life. We haven't gotten comfortable with being in these other types of discomfort. And so I think it's just realizing, like, yeah, that's all there to fortify me. Like, I'm strengthened by being put into the fire. So when you can see it that way, you start to see it as an everyday occurrence. You start to see it as like a natural part of the cycle of growing as a human being. Then it's something that you can start to celebrate and go, like, yeah, here I am right here, right now. And I don't have to stay there. It's okay. Like, I'm going to move through this and be stronger.
And this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you're experiencing. And I love what you said, take a step back. I actually, Michael Singer would say to lean back.
Mm-hmm.
Lean back into yourself, which is this idea of having the ability to witness, to observe something without attachment or identification, whether that be an obstacle or a narrative or an emotional experience, a constructive experience inside your body. You have the ability, I'm telling you, if you're human, you have the ability to lean back and just to watch it. And when you master that ability, this ability to observe, it's to be mindful, right? It's objective awareness, right?
Yeah.
To be able to objectify something, you legitimately lean back into your consciousness and you're able to look at it like it dissolves.
And sometimes you may not decide that you're ready to let it go right then. Maybe you're like, you know what? I want to be mad about this for a little while.
You got to finish.
I'm ready to be angry about this for a little bit, because that anger needs to process. And then, but you're aware of what's happening. You're not caught up in it and, swirling around in that tornado of emotion. You're just kind of like participating with it, and you can still step back a little further and decide to move away from it and let go of it. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to necessarily want to keep feeling negative emotions. Sometimes we want to feel the negative emotion and be in it for a minute.
Right. You let it pass all the way through, because if you try to not feel it, that's resistance or suppression. Then you're going to bottle it up and you're getting more stuck energy, creating more samskaras, which then have to come back up to the surface at a later time.
You're prolonging it. And so I think that there's wisdom sometimes in that feeling of going, okay, I'm just going to allow myself to experience this right now. And, but then once you build that ability to become more aware and to step back and observe, then you can see whether it's something that you do need to process or whether it's just an addiction to a specific, chemical hormonal cocktail of being irritated.
Yeah. That
keeps showing up.
Well, I think that this is the most important thing to understand or know. Right? When we talk about letting go, we're talking about letting go of things that make us feel separate.
Mm-hmm.
Most things that make us feel separate from our truth or stored at a young childhood age or whatever it is, we're stored with pain. There was some sort of discomfort that happened that caused you to store or to block the flow of energy in that way of your life, right? Mm-hmm. The basic truth is this is kind of good news, bad news, is that whatever was stored with pain is going to come back up with pain. Mm-hmm. So the bad news is that it's going to be uncomfortable when you begin to go through this process of letting go. The good news is that the discomfort is for you. That means that it's ready to be healed. That means it's ready to be transmuted. That means it's ready to pass through, and that you're no longer suppressing it, resisting it, or avoiding it. Right? That you have the courage to acknowledge it, to look at it, and let it pass. And when you do that, like Heidi's talking about, where you say, I'm going to let this thing run its course. I'm going to let this moment of grief, this moment of despair, this moment of doubt, of fear, or anger, or even pride, I'm going to let it run its course without attaching to it. Doesn't mean it's not me. Mm-hmm. It's just something my body is experiencing, that my mind is creating. Because the thoughts that your mind is creating, the emotions your body is experiencing, is stress trying to leave the body. It is this samskara trying to heal. It is the actual part of you that is separate, wanting to become back to you and be whole again, and to release its role or job that it's currently playing. Mm-hmm. So, you experienced the pain when it went in there, and it got stored, and it protected you, and it served its purpose for some period of time. But now it's coming back up again. It's not for you to avoid life or to hide or to cower away. It's for you to be able to open and expand in the face of it. Because when you do, your capacity to experience greater things, more of the scale of emotions, and to be a greater being is growing. Your capacity is growing. Every time you sit behind, you lean back and allow for something to pass all the way through. I promise you on the other end of that is more space. It's more freedom. It's a quieter mind. It's more creativity. It's more connection. It's a deeper sense of understanding the truth. And when you begin that process, what emerges on the other end of that is passion and purpose. You naturally engage with the world in a way that is purposeful and meaningful, which is part of the human need, right? Is meaning. You begin to derive the meaning from even something that feels incredibly uncomfortable and disturbing to you. Like you learn how to use that as a vehicle for your growth. Because if it was stored with pain, it's going to come back up and be experienced as a discomfort, as a disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
But the options, I mean, the cost of not doing this work is staying in the lower constrictive experience.
And what happens when
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's the cost.
Well, if we don't like where we are right now, then what happens is we attract people and situations that reinforce the sense of separateness, the sense of not good enough, the sense of inadequacy or whatever it is that is trapped there. And so it is the way. If you want to learn more about this, definitely encourage you to check out our website, check out the Integrated Mindset program. And I know that Ryan's been working on an awesome masterclass that we're going to be sharing with you guys pretty soon as well. So we're really excited about that. And
yeah, we're gonna get another round going the second week in January, the week of January 16th. We're gonna have a few more groups running. It's a 10-week course, group coaching model, Q&As, weekly pre-recorded modules, the whole entire 9 yards. And it's priceless, and you have access to the content for life. So
yeah, some of the feedback on the program has just been incredible. People are having really amazing results in their lives and really feeling things shift. And that's exciting. And we're excited to share more with you.
Yeah. So, well, that's all I had for today. So any, what's one takeaway and one authentic action? I have spoke plenty. So.
Mm-hmm. One takeaway is just to be able to recognize that we're never stuck anywhere. We're never stuck with any one experience of life. And we always have the ability and the power to transcend where we are, to decide to let go, to decide to forgive, to decide to move past whatever the experiences that we no longer wish to continue with. And to me, that's really empowering, and being able to have the tools to not just observe what's going on internally, but also to be able to choose the experience I want to have is one of the best gifts in the world.
Yeah.
Actionable step. I mean, always, we talked about this on the last episode too, is like, take inventory, slow down enough. And if you need to declutter, listen to the last episode, slow down enough to really start to pay some attention to what's going on inside.
Yeah, I love that. So if there's something you want to be different, or you recognize that there's an undesirable experience happening inside your mind, body, system, life in general, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I agree completely. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for tuning and listening.
Thanks so much for listening. Your support of the show means the world to us. If you could leave us a rating and review and share this show with someone who you think could find value in it, we would be so grateful. Until next time. Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first. Alignment matters. and the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.